gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice and Dragons, we are going to be reviewing one of our most anticipated games of 2021. When I told Julie that this was coming out, she told me, get it and make sure you get it on time and quickly. So I did. That's why we have it here in front of us. It is Descent: Legends of the Dark, published by Fantasy Flight Games and designed by Cantell and Nathan Hajek. Now, if those names are familiar to you, they are the same designers from Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, another favorite of ours, and this is an app-based co-op game. Sorry, I stole a little bit of your thunder, but I want to make sure that we mention that this is app-based, which is definitely not a problem for the two of us. So now I'll toss it over to Julie, who's going to tell you a lot more details about the game itself.
Well, it is a dungeon crawl. It is a cooperative game, as Jason said, that is intended for 1 to 4 players aged 14 and above. And the box says that it plays in 3 to 4 hours. Each campaign we've played has been just under 3 hours, and we're playing with 2 characters each, so 4 players.
Yeah, we're playing essentially at the max player count, and the nice thing about the game is it actually does time your campaign missions, and we're clocking at like 2 hours and 45 minutes pretty much for all 3 of the quests that we've played. Now, we're not going to be doing a how to play in this video. We will be covering the components. The how to play will be coming out in a separate video, as well as a full campaign review once we get through this entire game, and we will also be revising our thoughts if we need to. But we've spent close to 10 hours with the game, well, more than 10 hours if you count some of the story sequences that we'll be talking about when we get to the review. So what are you doing in this game? Well, as Julie mentioned, it is a dungeon crawl. You are in the world of Terrinoth, and you'll be taking on the roles of different characters. The game opens up with the characters of Cyrus, Varix, Galadin, and Bryn. You are protecting a caravan and the dreaded Uthuk Y'llan, who were, they lived on the fringes of Terrinoth, but they started consorting with demons, so they're not really human anymore. Yeah, those kind of scary evil people are venturing into the barony of Forthyn. I think I pronounced it right. And you will be defending the barony from this scourge and going on multiple quests and interacting with, three-dimensional terrain. Can't see, well, I can see some of it, but I can reach another door there. So interacting with 3D terrain and defeating enemies as you go about saving the barony from the Uthuk Y'llan. Really hard name to pronounce. I think we've talked enough about the game. What time is it, Julie?
Well, I think it's time to grab our drink.
Grab our best friend and fellow adventurer. It's going to be a little tricky with this giant box.
We're going to take it to the table one more time.
One more time. It looks like we're about at the end of this quest here, so let's finish it up. Now we're going to take a look at the components for Descent: Legends of the Dark. We do not have every single component out here. As you can see, it takes up a lot of room. There's actually one component that I couldn't fit, so we'll take a look at that quickly. And we're not going to go through like everything in detail, all the different player powers, but we will take a look at the player board so you understand what to expect from the game. And you'll be able to see that in more detail when I finally do get to a how to play, which should be coming in the next couple of weeks. And typically, like we like to do here on Dice and Dragons, we'll start with the rule book. Now this says Learn to Play. Fantasy Flight Games had started to put out Learn to Plays as well as rule books. In this case, you just have the one. And overall, I find that it's pretty good. It explains everything that you're going to be getting in the game, how to use the app, the support for colorblind players, which is pretty cool. As you can see, there are different notches on these bases, and the colored bases are colorblind friendly. So that's pretty cool. You can see it a little bit more in that image. So I will not be picking those up and taking a look at them. And overall, very well done, Learn to Play. I just wish there was a glossary at the back so we could find specific things. It does make it a bit of a pain in the butt to look things up. It does feel like the game was supposed to potentially have a rule book which would have had the glossary, but they decided just to put it all in one. And then you do have a quick reference guide on the back, which I have found very useful in our plays of the game so far. Now, we're going to start by taking a look at the 3D terrain. The reason for that is one of the pieces that I couldn't get on camera is the arch, which looks very cool. We also have tables. Now, there may be multiples of these and they may not look exactly alike. I'm just taking an example of one of everything and putting it on camera. We've got the cauldron. Does a good job of representing cauldron. We have the well, which I think is very cool, and it was fun to assemble. Now, when you're punching these out, please take your time and follow the instructions. Punch the pieces out one by one and not all at once. It'll save you some time. This is a bookcase. The only thing I find is that this is a little loose, the book at the top. You can either glue it down if you want. I haven't done it yet. It hasn't been too much of a problem. It's just the one thing I didn't like about that. Here we've got some 3D chests, which I think are cool. Maybe I'll end up taking some miniature chests from another game, but for the moment, these 3D ones work well with the overall theme. Here we've got barricades, which will deal extra damage to the heroes as well as to the enemies. If you're next to them, they can be dismantled by players. We've got the bookcase, which I think looks awesome, and they all look a little different as well. We have tables that'll be set up, you know, for sacrifices and things like that. Three-dimensional trees look very cool. We have the pillars and column supports for the three-dimensional like playing field. So one thing that you'll notice, and we'll take a look at these tiles next, is that there are notches so that, you know, you can assemble them at the proper height. So you've got the smaller ones that are one level, and this one here, and I'll put this down so you can see it clearer, this one here that goes up 2 levels. Now, because we do have three-dimensional terrain, you've got the staircases that you'll be using to go up and down the terrain, or possibly you'll need to find different ways to move between them. You can always leap off the terrain down to a lower level. Then we've got doors, and there are some other colored doors as well as the portcullis. I think they look pretty cool. And here we've got the piece that is a little bit off camera, but it's just a wing, so I figured it was worth it. And oh, I've got a table actually stuck on the back here. I didn't even notice. That's how big this thing is. We've got the big dragon statue, which we haven't seen yet. I'm very curious as to when the thing's going to come into play, but it looks amazing and just has a whole ton of table presence. So we've taken a look at the terrain. We'll continue with our look at the terrain as we'll take a look at some of the tiles. There are a whole lot more of them included. I believe there's about 20 of them that you get. So they're all double-sided. Now, don't love the art on the terrain, but it does the job. The fact that everything's three-dimensional, you don't really need these great illustrated spaces, but it would have been nice. So as you can see, dual-sided with different aspects on each side. So you might have the dirt or wooden planks. And then there's also that stonework that we saw on the first tile. Now, the way the game has changed some things up and made it just a little bit easier and I think less terrain intensive is we've got these underlays that you can use. So you'll have the water ones, which are dual-sided with spike pits. Then you've got the molten plains representing fire, lava, and then these swampy opposite sides of the underlays, which I think overall was a pretty solid decision from Fantasy Flight Games. Now we've got this, which goes along with the 3D terrain. It's pretty much to handle any larger miniatures to make sure that they don't fall down these small areas. Now, as you can see, we only have one large miniature. We still don't know what all the enemy types are. We've spent about 10 hours with the game, but we haven't seen everything. So let's dive into the enemies since we mentioned them. Here we've got the golem. And I really love the look of the miniatures. Not quite sure what we've got here, but it definitely looks like some type of reanimated object, probably something to do with Waiqar the Undead and his forces. Haven't run into them yet in the game. Here we've got the Uthuk Berserkers, who look fairly demonic, even though they're human. We've got the Fey creatures, represented by 3 otherworldly things, and we fought quite a few of those so far in the campaign. We have what appears to be some undead warriors. So definitely associated with Waiqar in some shape or form. We have the wolves, who definitely look rather evil, but not to say all wolves are evil. My favorite books has characters that turn into wolves, so if you know the series, you might be able to guess which one it is. Yeah, really enjoy the details on the minis. Here we've got another character, enemy type we've yet to run into, the dragon hybrids, and I'm really curious how they're going to come into the play in this story. You can tell by the draconic wings, or it could be an Uthuk, but it definitely looks more like a dragon. We do have a dragon statue, so they're going to get involved somehow. Here we've got the bandits, and so far there have been quite a few bandits plaguing the barony of Forthyn. We've got the zealots, and not quite sure if they're human or not, but they are definitely some of the more annoying enemies to fight. Luckily, they do have some weaknesses we can exploit. And these are the Uthuk blood witches, I believe. We've faced a named one, so I'm not sure if they're called blood witches or not, but that's the only character we've come across that uses the model. And then you'll notice that this one is a little different. That's because we did get the pre-order miniature, so it's got a different paint job to it. I haven't taken the other one out of the box. Otherwise, they're identical. And I'm guessing this represents the big bad demon lord that we're going to be facing, the guy whose face is on the cover of Descent Legends of the Dark. So we've taken a look at all of our enemy miniatures. Let's just readjust our tiles over here a little bit. I just noticed that they were over our characters, and that's what we want to take a look at next. So here are the different characters. You've got Cyrus with the Phoenix Bond. Now every character has their movement, health, what die they'll roll for attack or defense, any modifiers for the test that you will do, and their fatigue limit on their cards. There are fatigue limits on other cards as well. Now every card is double-sided, so you can flip it over, so you'll get a whole other power on the other side. And you'll have different fatigue limits as well. And flipping the cards over is how you clear fatigue and things like that, which is pretty cool. So here we've got Varix, our dragon hybrid. Yeah, and Cirrus is a human prodigy, our mage. So you can see their stats. They use the blue die, which we'll take a look at in a second. There's surge ability. Then on the other side, as you can see, it's different. I'm not going to flip over any of the others. We've got Keelyu was our dwarf artificer, specialist in everything in terms of crafting as well as making potions. She's awesome. We've got Bryn, our human avenger, who is awesome. I believe she was a marshal or is related to the marshals in some way, shape, or form. We've got Chance, the Hearings rogue, our cat person, who is definitely awesome when it comes to moving around in the shadows. And lastly, we've got Galadin, the elf huntsman, who is also a demon hunter. Very cool characters, and we've actually played with all of them, and we've enjoyed every single one so far. So let's take a look at their miniatures. We've got Keely right here, and you can see she's got both of her weapons, the hammer and the crossbow with a shield. You'll see what I mean by both of her weapons in just a moment. Here we've got Galadin. I think he looks awesome. I love the fact that we've got his blades as well. We've got Varix here, and he looks really cool, or they look really cool. That's the proper way to say it. The dragon hybrids don't really have any gender, and looks very awesome. We've got Cirrus, the human prodigy, with his phoenix. I think it just is a very cool looking miniature. We've got Bryn, our human avenger, the tank of the group. And then, of course, the smallest mini, but not the least one, we've got Chance, our Hearings rogue, who looks fantastic as well. Now, we talked about the different dice. So essentially, you've got one got away from me there. The D6 with different symbols on it. So you've got your successes, your surge, and then these, you can spend the fatigue to turn them into successes. You've got your D8 with its own values as well. Then lastly, the D12, which has its own values on it. Those are the three types of dice that are included with the game. Here we've got the health dial for the heroes, the different conditions. We've got, I believe, infected, scarred, and terrorized. They'll do different things at the end of the turn, either making you take fatigue or damage. The scar will actually damage you when you flip over your card if your card is scarred. We got the positive ones, prepared cards you can flip over without taking an action, and focus token here will let you re-roll. And then here we've got just a token for fatigue. Now I realize I got these both sides up. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, both on the same side. So these will mark different interaction points, and these are sight tokens, which will let you reveal more things on the map as you're progressing through the story. Now here we've got the stack of hero cards. You're wondering why I have these ones here sleeved. That's because each hero has 2 of the weapon types. That's why you see them all equipped. So there you have it, the 2 different types of weapons. So you can flip them over, potentially doing something up close, like the Shadow Gauntlet, or ranged with the knives, depending on your character. It's pretty cool. Bryn, of course, is always up close and personal with the Warhammer or the Warden's Blade. Then we've got the double-headed hammer or the true aim crossbow. Now, these ones I'm using are from the pre-order pack, so they're of slightly different art. We do have the hero, there's the reference cards here, tell you what you can do on your turn and what the symbols are. You can see some of the other things for the Warden's Blade. Now, all the cards are dual-sided, so you've got a standard side for your weapon and an upgraded side that you can do as well. Now, there's no difference between the starting weapons. I just have some fancier art because of the pre-order. So all of this represents the different weapons for each of the heroes. Now, this is a little bit more video gamey because you'll notice it's very much class specific or character specific. You can't just give the crossbow to anyone like you could in Descent, Journeys in the Dark 2nd edition, and also in 1st edition. So you got Galadin's blades, his bows. Then we've got these runes, which are for magic, but how are we going to use those runes? They haven't quite come up in the game as well. You also notice you got the fatigue limit. I'll actually pick this back up here. It tells you if something's got reach, it's damage. There'll be a range symbol there, like you can see right there for the glimmering rod, and the type of damage in case the enemy is weak to it. Then we've got the same thing here. All of these different skills that are specifically related to each of the different characters. So they're all color-coded, as you can see. Then we do have the minor and major injuries, and I got a couple more of the cards for the hero references. Next, we've got our consumables, which can also be upgraded. So you've got the standard side and then the upgraded side, which you can tell by the 2 arrows. You can take a look at all the different types of consumables. We're really not going to go through them all. This has been a long look at the components, but as you can see, there's lots of stuff to take a look at here. And then we have the different armor that you can get. And so far, we haven't seen if armor is necessarily, there's definitely a little bit character specific because you've got medium, light, heavy. But you do have some choices as to who will wear what. And then we've got some different trinkets, like the brew basket, the horn of courage, stuff that you can pick up, the shadow bracers, which we actually have, that can let you do a lot more damage, and each character can only have 1 trinket. Well, there you have it. It's taken us a little while, but we showed you all the components that you're going to be getting in the box for Descent, Legends of the Dark. Now keep it right here, as we'll be coming back at you with our review of the game. So, Julie, what did you think of Descent, Legends of the Dark?
Sorry, I have to stand up straighter. I can't see you around the box.
Yes, this is quite the big box. And looking at it again, I neglected to mention it in the intro. This is listed as Act 1. Act 1 of what? 2, 3, 4, 5? We're going to get 5 giant boxes like this? Who knows?
I don't often look at the boxes. I see the front art of the boxes that Jason decides to put, more prominently. But this one's really cool. It has like stained glass art with some pretty scary, like there's a scary woman here with skulls on her chest.
I think that's Necruel.
Well, there's lots of fire burning.
Witch? I'm not sure what she is. I forgot what they
And
call
this
her.
looks like orcs. Anyways, it's a pretty impressive box. I like
clearly the history of Terrinoth on there.
Well, it's definitely a nice touch to have like the stained glass look.
Oh, they definitely really, really went for the immersion with this game.
So I'm going to see. I'm interested to see what Jason's score is on this because I think I'm enjoying this more than he is. Now, Descent has always been our game. 2nd edition was the game, and I've quoted it a few times at in some podcasts or some every time anybody asked me brought me into gaming, I would say Descent made me realize that I could be what I considered a gamer. And I used to call myself gamer light, and I think I've been kind of conditioned into I don't think light is the right term for me anymore. But
she kicked my butt in Tapestry, okay? Like, we can get rid of the light moniker.
So that being said, dungeon crawls still hold a special place in my heart. I love minis. We've talked about it. Journeys in Middle Earth is probably one of my favorite games. And I've said a few times as I was talking about games, I wonder how this compares to Descent 2nd Edition, because I haven't played it in a while. Now, we played Descent 2nd Edition very recently so that we could compare it to this.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be a different video, I think.
That video will be coming at a later date. So when it does come, you'll see the card that'll pop up, but don't expect it until we actually get a chance to film it. Probably in a few more weeks.
So that being said, there's a lot I like. There's a lot I like about the things that they've changed in the game. So the app, let's talk about the app first, I think.
And this is one comparison that we should make, is that the app for Descent Journeys in the Dark 2nd Edition was added after the game was created. This game was designed the app.
It doesn't say Journeys.
This is Legends of the Dark. I'm talking about the original. So when you're comparing the apps,
okay.
2nd Edition, the app was an addition, just like Imperial Assault. They found a way to adapt the game and make it cooperative. This was built as a co-op from the ground up with the app in mind, as I was saying.
Okay. The app is a lot better. I mean, it's been quite a few years as well since the other app. So, apps have gotten better.
The app came out right around when we started playing 2nd Edition. So it's at least 4 or 5 years old. I think it's closer to the 4 mark.
So the app is much, much better. It allows you, basically it does a lot as well for you, instead of having to try to figure out how much damage you've done and, have the tokens, the app does do that.
Yeah. So one thing to say, the app works a lot like a video game, and that might really bother some people, but it does give a lot more freedom to designers in terms of what they can do with different abilities. You can have certain things that will, and I'll use the gaming term, proc, meaning that the effect will go off a specific percentage of the time instead of having to maybe roll a percentile die to see if you might, slow someone, daze someone, get an extra damage. The app will handle all of that for you. Now that is going to be great for some people, and it's something that I say that I enjoy in terms of this experience, what they're trying to bring to the table, but it might not be for everyone. And you don't really have those effects in 2nd Edition. So that type of stuff is completely new to this game, and they're really, as Julie said, improving the app and using the technology that they have to its fullest.
And I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a video game person. I'm not a fan of video games. I still don't like them. I've still not, but this app, it doesn't bother me at all. If anything, I do enjoy it. I'd even say, and Jason, I think this is the time to talk about it. Because we've talked about it a little bit. I like the combat this way. So one of the things is that you take your player and you target the specific bad guy that you want to attack.
Yeah. So we'll just talk a little bit about the app because we don't know how to play. So how you will interact with the app, and sort of interrupting, I just want to make sure that it's clear for everyone. You have your portrait for each of your characters, and then when you go to interact with anything, including attacking an enemy, you will drag from your portrait to whatever you're interacting with or what you will be attacking. So as Julie's saying, go take your guy, drag him over there, and start your combat.
Yeah, and you say which of your different weapons that you have equipped.
Yeah, so why don't we show that quickly? So you do have 2 weapons, and flipping the cards is a major mechanic in the game. It's how you clear your fatigue and clear some nasty conditions too.
So you say which weapon that you're using, and then basically how many successes you roll. So you're still rolling your dice to see how you're doing in combat, and then it tells you how much damage you've done. Now, one of the things is as you basically modify your weapons or you get different things, that's when you, as Jason said, you get different percentile augments. Basically, I think it's cool. Now, I think you have a little bit of a different opinion.
I do think it's cool, but it's nothing new to me. Like, I am the video gamer. I've played hours and hours of JRPGs. I've played hours and hours of games like Dragon Age, where you're going to look for that proc, which is going to make you do a lot more damage. I mean, I was the rogue in World of Warcraft that actually found Fell Striker. So if you're an old school WoW player, you know exactly what that does. It makes all of your hits crit. And I was always getting in trouble for pulling the bosses on the group because I'm doing too much damage. So I love actually the way that it's incorporated into the game. I think it's cool. I think it's taking this type of game to another level. And I have to say, like, the three-dimensional terrain and the components, which we'll talk about more, and the fact that we still have to roll dice, use our cards, there's enough of a physical aspect that I don't feel like I'm playing a video game.
I completely agree. I mean, I find that I mean, and maybe we can finish off on the app. Our thoughts on the app with this is I just find that the app is a great support to the table presence that this game has. I think it makes the game easier to play, more quicker, and adds more depth to it. And it's funny because I'm talking depth when we have some 3D terrain that we'll talk about next.
Yes. The one thing I have to say that I'm not a fan of in the app, and the app does a lot of cool stuff, but it's probably one of the weaknesses of second edition as well in terms of the app, is just kind of the way the story is handled outside of the missions. I like the way it looks. I like the way it's like, I like the story, but I do find that it can be a little bit of a slog. It's almost too much like an old school video game. And I would have liked to have seen something maybe a little different, possibly some voiceovers, just ways that we could be interacting with the story in a more, in a manner that has more depth to it.
Well, I did think it was pretty cool that there are some voices during the gameplay. That the reactions to stuff that we pull, things that happen.
I really like that. I would just love it if, when we're at the app portion and Galadin's talking, if it was maybe in his voice.
Then I honestly, I disagree, because then I would think it would be too much of it. And even the Journeys of Middle-earth game that we played only has really the voiceover in between quests when we finish a quest.
But I think that handles story differently, though, because it's voiceover in between and there's a story constantly in the mission. We get some story inside the mission itself. I don't mind. I'm talking more about the cut scenes when you're like, we get a line, click, click. I would have liked to have that be just a smoother, higher end experience. Everything in the app itself, when we're like clicking through it, we're on the same page there. It's totally fine.
Okay, so 3D terrain. I think that's cool. I wasn't sure. I thought it was going to be a little gimmicky, but I think it adds to the ambiance and the table presence for this game. I'll let Jason talk about it, but it adds a little bit to my game when, Jason's geeking out about, what we have in front of. I don't know if you can see, you've got a second story and you've got
they can't quite towers. See it,
but basically
take out the overlay from back here. So we actually, if you looked earlier, we were on a platform that then turned into a spiked pit. We actually fell down, had to climb back out and fight a whole bunch of bandits. That's right, bandits. These guys over here, they're a giant pain in the butt. Thankfully, we have a group with a lot of piercing weapons. That's another thing the app does, apply weaknesses, so you can actually do more damage based on weaknesses. Very cool.
So the minis, to get to the minis next, I think I like them better than what we had in second edition. I think they've stepped it up a notch.
I have to agree. The sculpts are a lot nicer, but I'm still a little loath on the quality they are in terms of what they are. They're hollow, so they do feel a little fragile, whereas the others were chunky PVC miniatures. I'm not worried about dropping them. If you watched the unboxing, when I was taking out one of the golems, it was a little stuck, so I'm not a big fan of the vacuum form packaging. And I just pulled on its shield a little bit, and it did separate. Now, tiny dab of glue fixed it, but I'm still not sure if the trade-off was worth it. I've seen some highly detailed, fairly chunky miniatures. So when you're looking at the price point of this game, which is definitely on the high end of all the retail games out there, I don't know if you're really getting the value in terms of the quality of the miniatures. The sculpts themselves, though, and the way they look and how awesome they're going to look painted, I 100% agree with Julie. The aesthetics are a lot better.
So I mean, we haven't, and we've got some 3D terrain and things that we can interact with, like trees and things like that, and so that's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed that. I'm going to move on to the art. So when we first opened the box, one of the things I said is I really don't like the artwork for this. I didn't like the character art. But it's grown on me as we've played. I still don't love Chance. I don't know quite what he is. But
cat person.
He doesn't look like a cat, and he does, but he doesn't look like a cat. He looks like a half. Actually, he looks like an owl to me. But anyways, all that to say, it's grown on me, and it doesn't bother me. I would say it's not. I've really enjoyed the art in Journeys to Middle Earth. In Middle Earth, I don't really enjoy it in this as much.
No, and I have to agree with you. The art for the characters has grown on me a lot. I didn't think it was going to, but it has. But the art on the equipment, we haven't got this stuff yet. It's still just, it feels almost a little too cartoony. I prefer the art for all of the gear so far in Journeys in the Dark in 2nd edition. I thought the gear looked better.
I was talking about the Lord of the Rings one.
Oh, sorry. Well, I like the art in Journeys to Middle Earth better than this. And I also like the art for the equipment in 2nd edition over this. But the characters have started to grow on me, so I don't dislike it. But I'm not a big fan of the overall art. And, color coding for the characters, like all of Keely's stuff is blue. It's okay. I don't know if I love it. I mean, it was a little bit similar in the other game, but I think one of the reasons why actually now looking at it, and we should just mention this because I think it's really cool actually, is that we have the tokens that are the right colors for people that are colorblind. So that might be why I'm just not used to this type of aesthetic. So as you can see here, instead of having, red and blues, we've got purples, orange, violets. So just colors that are easy to see. And all these little things are notched as well so that if you still have difficulty seeing it, depending on your color blindness, you can just identify the bandit as the 2-1 or the one that's got 3 dashes. So it's pretty cool. They really took a lot of time into making this friendly for everyone.
Yeah, we have there's a lot of diversity in this game. Obviously, you're talking about an owl person.
Cat person.
I think it's an owl.
No, it's a cat person. I've read the lore. I have the whole Terrinoth lore book.
Okay. So you have all kinds of different races, and okay. If you say he's a cat, he's a cat. But there's also, there's there's your character, the hybrid dragon.
Yeah, and Varix is referred to as they and them, and I think it makes sense. Going through the lore of Terrinoth, no one really says what the dragon hybrids are. They're just created by dragons. They apparently can't reproduce, so it makes perfect sense that would be how they would identify themselves.
Yeah. So, honestly, I've been having a lot of fun. I think the hardest part for me right now, and it's not the game's fault, is the fact that the quests are, like we said, almost 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours long, and that's a big time commitment for us these days because of the little guy who keeps us really busy, and to have that much time basically means we're splitting up our campaigns because I don't have 3 hours in a day that I can sit and play a campaign right now.
Each quest basically takes us 2 plays. The one thing that we can do, and you can definitely take the app with you and you don't have to have it on the table to do some stuff. So we do go through the story elements and we're able to handle everything that we do in town. And that's something that we do need to talk about before we forget. You can craft and upgrade gear, which is very much something from video games, but it's completely new in this. But the length is definitely, I think, a bit of a problem. Now, so far we've only played big story missions. And those are all the 2 hours, 45-minute mark. We do have some side quests that are starting to pop up. if those hit more around the hour 45 and 2 hour mark for experienced Ascent players like us, I'll be happier. I appreciate having these longer story campaigns and maybe some smaller missions that we can do as well. That was actually the way that it tended to work in Journeys in the Dark as well. So we'll have to see, but the 3 hour time limit is definitely pushing it for us. But we are having fun. Like, don't get me wrong. I wish we had the time to just sit and play through it, play through a whole quest in one sitting.
Yeah, so it is, to your point, yeah, the city actions are definitely very different in this than second edition. We haven't actually bought anything, whereas in the past you would buy your gear, you would buy things from the gold that you collect. In this case, you're picking up stuff, as you kill a bandit, you pick his pockets. As you kill a wolf, you take his hide, which allows you to craft other things later. So, there's that, I think, is a very different element.
So if you've played any role-playing game, you know exactly what happens. Any video game RPG, you kill something, the wolf gives you coins. Why does the wolf give you coins? Well, not so much so in this, it's the bandits that'll give you coins, but you do get your loot. You do want to skin the animal, get the pelt, do some crafting, and all of that is in the game. So one of the interesting things is that we've actually crafted a lot of our gear, and two of our hardest hitters right now are because we just happen to have all the right stuff to upgrade their weapons. So whether they're using their bow or getting in close with their blades or their hammer, they're just doing a lot of damage. And it'll be interesting to see how this works out in subsequent campaigns, because we haven't played with Cyrus for the last two missions, and Bryn has now sat out a mission. So we definitely got to get them back in to catch them back up, because you also have the new feat system where you're trying to do specific objectives during the quests in order to unlock skills and recipes specifically to upgrade your character. And so far, I don't know what it is. I feel like Keely's just gotten some very easy ones, and she's got the most skills right now, having already unlocked two of her skills. Whereas Varix, I've got a very more difficult to accomplish task that not even close to doing it yet.
Yeah. No. So I think that's been it's been a lot of fun. I think the thing is, there's a lot more that we could say about the game. I think I would summarize it by saying this feels like Descent, but it feels different. Yes. It feels like a new game. It's fresh. It's different, but I still feel like I'm playing Descent. And I think that's the best of both worlds as far as I'm concerned. I'm really having fun. Like I said, I wish I had more time to play because it is a time commitment. But I've been having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and they've upgraded the narrative. We haven't really talked about that. Like the story, the characters, everyone is vibrant. And I like the fact that all the characters have their own backstory. We're getting bits and pieces of their backstory. Chance's backstory is completely tied into the quest, as is Bryn's so far, because Bryn is, minor spoiler here, so don't freak out. You'll find out very early in the game, Bryn is related to the Baroness, which I thought was pretty cool. I love how the world and the barony are alive with stuff going on for your characters. We've learned quite a bit about Galadin. Varix is still a little hidden, and we know a lot about Keely as well, but it'll be interesting to see how her story and her objectives tie into everything. And there's also this interesting virtue system where you have to make choices to your characters that are going to have some effect later on. Now, it's not going to be negative. You can make those two choices however you fit. You're going to focus on one path. For example, Chance was focusing on trust, and I don't remember what the other path was.
Independence.
Independence. You can do a mix of both or focus on one. It's completely up to you. It's not going to negatively impact the story. So all of these elements have really come together to, as Julie says, make a whole new game. This is not third edition. It doesn't feel like third edition. This isn't going to replace second edition for us. The fact that we've got so many more campaigns that we can play with second edition, and that it gives you a different feel. I do think that this game is a little easier, I would say, than second edition. I think just in terms of what you're doing and healing and the way the damage is dealt. So far, it feels like we can hit like a truck. You got to be a little bit more strategic in second. So we're always going to have that more of a tactical fit, I feel, with that. And we're going to definitely keep playing it. But this is something new, something different, and it adds to the world of Descent and the world of Terrinoth without taking anything away from it. And I'm really eager to see how this continues. I think a lot of people just sort of, ragged on this game because of the app and didn't see what the potential that the app can bring. Sure, you're going to be using the app a lot. So if you don't like apps in games, this probably is not for you. But this has taken the best aspects of a video game RPG, put it on an app, and giving you so much table presence that it doesn't feel like you're in a video game. You still very much feel like you're on the tabletop, at least for us. So really enjoying this. I don't think there's anything more to add. We didn't miss anything?
Don't think so.
Let me just look around here. Anything interesting that we missed? Oh, conditions. Yes, conditions are cool. We do have some new conditions like preparing a card, which will let you flip in the cards. That's the thing that we just didn't really talk about that much, is how flipping works. When you flip, you will get rid of any fatigue on the card, resetting it so you can use your skills more. Also changing like your weapons, swapping from hammer to bow. Also, if you've got any negative conditions like terror and I think that was infection there, terror and infection, or you have any cards that are scarred, all those effects will trigger when you flip the card. The scar effect will trigger when you flip the cards, and you will get rid of the terror and infection by flipping it. So a completely new mechanic, and you've got different abilities on the side of each card, so something very new for the world of the set. All right, now we covered everything. Anything you want to add on the flipping mechanic?
No, I'm ready to give my score.
All right, so what is your score, Julie?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I wonder if you can guess.
Oh, I think I can guess.
I'm giving it an 8.5.
8.5. I thought you were going to go over 8.5.
Nope.
Nope.
8.5.
Really? So you like this as much as Red Rising? Because you gave that an 8.5.
Okay, then I'm going to revise my score and give it a 9.
Okay, I was about to say. The way you were
I don't remember all my scores.
The way you were talking about this, I almost thought you were going to give it a 9.5.
No.
Maybe when we're done the campaign, she'll move it up to 9.5.
Maybe it's also because I'm tired and we've been playing long campaigns.
Yes, well, I'm going to agree with Julie. I'm going to give this a 9. I think that you're getting a little bit better value still from 2nd edition because you have the app and the 1 versus many. There's just so much content for it. This, you have to use the app. But I like this type of experience. This is the type of games that I would spend hours and hours and hours playing. And now that Julie gets to see maybe why I enjoy things like Final Fantasy and tweaking out my weapons and gear, I'm glad that this lets, I get to share some more stuff with her, and we're playing a game that, really, hits the sweet spot for me, and it's also hitting the sweet spot for her. So I don't think this is going to come off our table anytime soon. We have to figure out, we have this vaulted table for a reason. So I think you guys will be seeing the black top for a little while in the subsequent reviews as we continue through Descent Legends of the Dark.
Yeah, and apparently you'll see pictures of the little guy playing as well because he seems to like the dice in this game.
Yeah, so you can definitely find those on our social media feeds, which I'll be directing to you in just a moment.
So now it's time for me to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we have some new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see pictures of us and our little guy playing Descent Legends of the Dark, take a look on all those feeds. Also down below in the video description, if you're looking to pick up a copy of Legends of the Dark, we do have our link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game channel. Click that link, get 10% off your next purchase, and it's a great way for you to support the channel as a portion of that purchase is returns to us, so make sure to check them out. Then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release, and in front of Julie will be...
we did a review of Descent, didn't we?
Yeah, Journeys in the Dark. So we'll do our review of Journeys in the Dark, and maybe around the same time, once we have the How to Play, we'll have the How to Play pop up as a card, or we'll swap one or two. I'm not sure yet, but something Descent related.
I'm just gonna jump in there in case you couldn't guess what Jason said when he called Multizone a channel. It is a game store. Not a channel.
Yes, a game store. Sorry. Thank you for the correction. All right, see, that's why I need her. So on that note, we need to
grab our drinks,
grab our best friend as we cheers over the box. We didn't spill anything. We're okay.
And we're going to keep playing games.
Definitely going to keep playing this one.
Yep.
Eagerly awaiting the development of the story.